in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating a really amazing technique called TRE, which stands for Trauma Release Exercises. And this was basically created by this guy named David Berceli over the last 2 decades, as he's lived in 9 various countries working with traumatized populations, either through war or natural disasters or anything else. But he devised this in order to be able to work with large groups of population at once, instead of having to do the time-intensive, labor-intensive, one-on-one therapy work that is so often seen in trauma treatment today. So this technique is quite simple. Anybody can do this. This works with tapping into the intrinsic tremor response that every human being has. And so in a minute, I'm going to be showing you some ways to tap into that response, but the idea here really is to allow the intrinsic wisdom of your body to take over. So this can be really challenging for some people that are very stuck in the head or very analytical or judgmental about themselves and maybe what their body is doing. But in order to do this exercise effectively, the main thing you have to know is to get out of your own way, to stop any judgment, stop any control that wants to happen from the head down, because as you'll see here in a minute, this exercise is very strange. This is not a normal way that we are in our bodies usually, and it can be really scary for people to really let go and allow this like strange, almost seizure-looking movement to start to move through their body. So to preference this exercise before we really get into it, I want you to know that oftentimes when you're in the process of TRE, emotions can and will arise, and that is very normal, and that is part of the healing process. So the best thing you can do is really just to be with whatever arises, knowing that if anything ever gets way too intense, come back to your safety meditation. Come back to a place of feeling grounded and safe in the body. And if you try this at home and you recognize right off the bat, this is just too much to do on my own, very soon I will be a certified TRE practitioner, so I will be able to work with you one-on-one. And even now, not having the certification, I do feel comfortable working with you one-on-one. So just know that that is a resource for you. And if you're not in Utah, then there are TRE practitioners across the country. So perhaps finding somebody that can work with you, that would be a good place to start. So again, if anything ever gets too intense, you can stop, take a rest, just come back onto the ground, really feel your feet, feel a place in your body that feels safe, and just really orient to space. So with that preference, here we go. So to warm up, sorry if you can't see my face, it's okay. We're just going to be rolling our feet side to side. So you can see my toes are kind of lifted, but we're just warming up the ankles here. Good. And then stopping that, just take some gentle knee circles one direction, and then knee circles the other direction. Good. And then widening the feet out, just taking some hip circles one direction, and then hip circles the other direction. Good. So my warm-up is actually going to be slightly different than what David Berceli teaches. So bear with me here. So then once you've done your hip circles, bring your feet kind of halfway out to the side, 45 degrees, and start to bend the knees. Make sure the knees go right over that second toe and you're widening the inner thigh. And then we'll come up. So we'll take 10 of these, nice slow dips down. Do what you want with your hands. I'm like brushing my thighs, but you can keep your hands on your hips, shoulders up, out, whatever. Nice ballet. lost count, so let's do 5 more. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. And all of these are designed just to get your legs a little more tired and exhausted. Then we're going to widen the feet in a parallel stance. Slowly bend that front knee, dropping that back knee down and raising up. So you might need to scoot that front leg a little more forward so that when you bend that knee, it's more or less right over that ankle. Good. And it will help if you pick a focal point in front of you to help keep your balance. And go as low as you can. Might mean touching that knee to the ground. Really getting your legs tired. Good, so we'll do 10 on each side. We'll do 1 more here. Again, sorry I can't talk and keep count at the same time. So then we're going to switch sides. Nice wide kind of lunge stance. And then slowly bending the knees down. 4, 5, 6, being aware of your breath. 9, 10. Good. Woo, yeah, feel it already? And then we're going to come up against the wall. This is definitely one that David Berceli uses. So we're going to keep the feet parallel, about hip distance apart, and then sliding that pelvis down. And you're going to hold this against the wall for maybe 2 minutes, but really as long as you can until you can't anymore and your legs are just shaking and giving way. That's the best. Like, we really do want our legs tired. That will make the whole shaking process that we're about to do on the ground a whole lot easier. But for purposes of this video, I'm going to keep this wall squat a little shorter because I can hold this for quite a while here. If this is hurting your knees, maybe come a little higher or find a different variation to get your quads and legs tired. Ooh, my floor mat slid. Good. So we'll just stay here 10 more seconds. If you'd like a little added bonus, bring your fist between your knees and squeeze your fist. So I lied. A little more than 10 seconds. Good. And then coming all the way down to the ground. Adjust my floor. Okay. Make sure you guys can have a good angle of me here. Okay, so once you're down on the ground, you're going to come to the outside of your feet, put the weight right on the edge of your feet, bring your feet together, knees out halfway to the side, press up, and lift the low back. Again, if this is hurting your low back, stop and let me know and we'll find a different variation. Because this can be a little straining for people that do have low back pain. But you can skip this piece altogether if you need to. And as you can see, there's a little movement starting to happen. So the idea here is that we really want that shake to be happening in the thigh. So you can play with opening the knees a little wider and then slowly bringing them together to the point where you feel that shaking happen, and then keep it there. And really go into that shake mentally. Allow yourself to explore that feeling of shake, tremor. Good. So again, this is another exercise just to get those legs tired and to start to feel that tremor response in the body. So once you've held this, as long as you need to, it's pretty intuitive, you're going to drop the pelvis and continue that exploration here. flat on your back. So again, if you're not feeling a shake happening in the knees in this position, widen the knees a little bit more. And then start to slowly bring them together until you reach a point where there's a little more tremor. And then hang out in that point and see what happens. So my body's really used to this practice. So as you can see, it just took over immediately. This might not happen for you right away. Just want to say it might take quite a lot of practice to feel this intrinsic shake in the body. Although for some of you it might also happen right away. It really depends on your nervous system and your body. But as you can see, we're having a heyday over here. The shaking can move up into the shoulders, into the head, into the hand. So whatever happens for you, just keep relaxing into it. This shaking really does work with releasing deep-seated tension in your psoas muscle, which is one of the major hip flexor muscles that starts at the top of your lumbar spine and is at the front of your lumbar spine and runs down through the pelvis and attaches to the inner upper thigh. And the psoas muscle, because it's the main hip flexor muscle, it's one of the main muscles that are responsible for curling you into a ball, which is like a trauma response mechanism, essentially. So it, by default, is very much associated with trauma. And this practice of TRE really does work with starting to stimulate those psoas muscles and starting to release whatever tension, stress, trauma is stuck in the nervous system, stuck in the tissues of the body. So the more you can allow yourself to just get wild, shake, and be amazed at the weirdness of your body, the better. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to just really allow my body to go a little crazy here. And because it might be for some of you that it feels like you need to spread the legs out, or maybe, get really funky with the arms. Just whatever wants to happen, let it happen. And then maybe for some of you, that whole craziness doesn't happen, but at some point you feel done with your knees open to the side, so you can continue that shaking with your knees parallel, your feet parallel. That gives your hips a little more freedom to do what they need to do. And as you can see, there's a lot of contraction sometimes that wants to happen in the core. And again, that is very much related to the psoas muscle. And like I said before, if emotions come up, feel them, go through them, let them process through your body. They're coming up and out, they're bubbling up and out. And once they're out, they're out. They're not going to fester underneath the surface and create more tension or pain for you down the road. Good. So I'm going to let that process come to a close and end my session by having my legs long, my arms long. And so David Berceli says you can do this for about 15 minutes and then have, a 2 to 3 minute savasana rest at the end. I say either do that or go as long as your body needs to. And that might be 45 minutes, that might be an hour, that might be 2 hours. If you have the time and spaciousness, do it. It's just best to allow the body's natural rhythm to unfold. So, yeah, and then once you've kind of shook everything out, you will know when to come into this resting position. Your body will just naturally stop. So yeah, it's just a really fun process to really get to know this body of ours and to let it lead instead of our minds. So whether you've done 15 minutes or whether you've done 2 hours, at some point you will come back to this gentle resting position, and you might find that there are occasional little twitches that start to happen still. Just let that be. And this time is for you to just integrate. Pull all the pieces together. And also to feel the effects that this shaking had on you. Just noticing what you notice. What is present in your body at this moment? Good. So once you've rested for a few minutes, take your time getting up and slowly transition, and then you can go about the rest of your day. And like I said, this can bring up quite intense emotions for people. So this is maybe best done in the evening when you don't have a large schedule ahead of you to do. Although some people do prefer to do this practice in the morning or even midday. So again, this is a very intuitive process. You find what works for you, what your body is calling for. And I can't remember if I mentioned this already, but I'll say it here again, that doing this practice every day might be a little too much, too instigating for you and whatever trauma is stored within your body. I remember working with one client in particular, and she was doing this every day for a week, and it was just too much. She was just like fritzing out. So she brought it back to like 2 to 3 times a week or even once a week. So you might find that is a case for you, and you might need to just like incrementally jump into this practice and do what you can when you can. Although for some other people, doing this every day is a perfectly good thing. So let me just think if there's anything else you need to know about this practice. Like I was saying at the beginning, if you do this and find that, whoa, this is just too much, I need support, definitely let me know. I can be that support person. And if you're doing this in a household with other people around, perhaps just letting them know what you're about to get into so that they're not freaked out, and letting them know that if sounds or emotion do naturally arise, that that's good and they shouldn't come and try to rescue you, but that you're in a healing process. So I think that's it for now. Have fun with this, and let me know if you have any questions or what arises for you. I'm always curious to hear how this goes for people. Okay, have fun.